Hey guys, in this video we're going to create these icons in Adobe XD. You're also going to find the source file in the link in the comment section, since that's going to redirect to my website and you can have it totally for free. By the way, I'm also creating an Adobe XD course, so stay tuned on that, but without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alright, so let's get started and let's create these icons. So the very first icon is going to be an activity icon, and I'm going to use the pen tool. So I'm just going to click on the pen tool and I'm going to start and click on the different points where I want the shape to be. So essentially I'm just going to go over here again and then click and I'm trying to get an equal distance between one of those points and the other. Then I'm gonna click on Ask, and one thing that I want at this point is to add a little bit of more border size. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go here and I'm going to add a little bit of more of a border, and I'm also going to make the color a bluish, a dark bluish tint, so that it just pops out a little bit more. Now another thing that I want to remove is these borders points which are too edgy. So I'm just gonna click on the icon and I'm going to select on this option right here, which basically is going to smooth out the edges. Now I want to do the same also for these edges right here. So I'm just going to select them and I'm going to click on round caps. So perfect. At this point we have our icon. Probably I just want to bring it a little bit more on the inside so it doesn't take too much width. So cool, we got the first icon. Now let's move on to the second icon, which is going to be a exclamation mark. So just going to go over here and I'm going to have a oval. Just going to add a little bit more of a border, and I'm also going to check how much border size I used in the first icon for consistency, because we wanted the same sizes. So in the first one I used 8, so I'm going to mimic this, and I also want the same exact color, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And I'm going to click on the line. I'm going to start dragging the line, and I'm going to also select it and create a duplicate by using Option and Shift at the same time and moving with the left mouse button. I'm going to select both. Going to select both of these elements, and again 8 of size. I'm going to click and select the same exact color. I'm going to use the rounded caps, and I need less of a height over here. I'm going to make it also a little bit more central vertically. All right, cool. Actually, let's just make it a full circle, and yeah, that will do. Perfect. So we also got our second icon. Now let's move on and let's create the third icon, which is going to be almost like a container of papers and things of that nature. So again, I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna make it to 8, and we're going to leave these type of borders. I'm going to duplicate it, and as I have the duplicate above, I'm just going to move it here below. Let's try and make it a little bit more, give it a little bit of more width, and I'm going to bring it up so that the two lines go next to each other perfectly. All right, now I'm also going to duplicate this. As you can see, the layer is below the other layer, so I'm just going to bring it here, and for some reason you can see that as I was zoomed out, the other element wasn't rotating all the way, and but we easily fixed that by simply zooming in. All right, perfect. So we got our third icon pretty much. Let's just bring it up just a little bit. And ideally you also want to have the same height between one icon and the other. And you also want to try and put them next to each other in different combinations if you're creating an icon set, in order to see if the icons work well, and especially if there is consistency between one icon and the other. Because one of the biggest issues or things to consider really in icon design is to actually create icons which are consistent with one another. So definitely something to keep in mind. All right, here we have a sort of analytics icon, so sort of a graph icon. And yeah, so far this is looking pretty good. I'm actually wondering if I want to maybe like go one way further and go all the way to 9. And yeah, let's actually keep that. I think it's looking pretty well. And now let's create a battery icon. So for the battery icon, I'm simply going to duplicate this, and we're also going to group them in just a moment, but for the time being this is totally fine. So let's make it rounded, as a battery usually has more of a roundedness to it, and also has edges. And let's add a small tiny bit of a battery cap on top of it, and we're good to go. Cool. Also the battery icon is created, and for some reason I'm not really feeling the height of this element right here, so I want to just make it a little bit more high. And cool, we are good to go. Now I'm going, actually let's duplicate the battery icon right here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a calendar out of it. So let's go over here, let's increase the height, and I'm also going to duplicate this, and I'm going to bring this calendar right on top. Perfect. Now the only thing that we're missing is two edges right here, so let's go ahead, let's bring this line on top, and all right, this is starting to look pretty good. And maybe let's bring them more towards the center. I'm gonna use a trick. I'm going to group them, and then I'm going to select the layer below. I'm going to center it. So as you can see, we have our calendar. Great. Now it's the time for a check, and by that I'm referring that we're actually going to create a check. So let's go over here. Let's maybe give it an inclination around these lines, and let's recolor the border, and again we're gonna make it 9. We're also going to use the caps right here. All right, so far so good. Maybe let's make it a little bit more on these lines, and perfect. I think this is going in the right direction. All right, so let's go ahead and now let's duplicate this one, and we're going to create a clock out of it. So we're going to just make it below in order to see the icon which we created on top, and just be sure that we have consistency. So I have this line over here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use Command C, Command V to duplicate it, and I'm simply going to bring this one so that it looks like a real clock. So right, let's just try and make this one a little bit bigger. And cool, we got our clock. And now we're going to create another icon, which is going to be a crosshair. So let's do that. I'm going to duplicate this, bring it up, I'm going to duplicate it again. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to group these, and I'm going to copy them and rotate them so we can have our crosshair. All right, looking pretty good. Now let's do one more thing, and let's go ahead and create a menu icon, which is going to look like this. All right, perfect. So far, so good. Now let's try and actually make the gap between one square and the other just a little bit smaller. And yeah, this is this overall, it's starting to look pretty good. Let's just reduce the gap a little bit more. And let's end up the icons with a classic of every UI, which is the hamburger icon, the famous hamburger icon. So let's do that. We're going to go here, rotate it 90 degrees, and we're going to bring it up, bring it to the center, duplicate it once, and we have our hamburger icon structure ready. And yeah, overall, let's just nudge it just a little bit. All right, cool, perfect. So we have all of our icons. Now we're not entirely done yet. The last thing that we want to do is to actually group them together and create some sort of unity between one icon and the other. So for icons such as this one, I'm going to move the keyboard so that you can see. We're just going to rename them, and we're going to rename them to graph, for example, or analytics. So I'm just going to keep them as they are, like this. For other icons, we can also consider Boolean operations such as, the add. But the problem is that if we use them in shapes where we have shapes inside of them, there's going to be issues. So let's go one step further, and let's actually use Command+G in order to group the icon, and we're going to rename it to Exclamation Mark. Oops, missing an A. Perfect. So we're simply going to go ahead and just try and figure out which icons can be grouped into Boolean operations, and if we want to, it's an extra step which you can decide to do or you can decide not to do. So let's just rename this one. Let's group it and rename it to archive. Now let's group this one here as well and rename it to analytics. Going to, in this case, we could consider the Boolean, but as you can see, we're essentially losing the roundedness of the caps and the borders. So again, we're just going to group it and call it battery. Select this one as well. It's going to be calendar. This one, we don't need to group it as it's one single layer. We're going to name it check. The one on the right is going to be called hour, or let's call it clock. This one here is going to be crosshair. This one is going to be menu, or actually yeah, let's call it menu. And this one here is going to be the hamburger icon, which is not the official term. This is going to be a menu or a navigation icon, but for the time being, let's just call it as it's more common for in the UI UX community. So, all right, now you know how to create icons in Adobe XD. Again, there's so many opportunities to use vector tools and icons in Adobe XD. It's a really powerful software. So there you go. So really hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, as this motivates me to create more videos. And on my YouTube channel, I have 300 plus videos on UI UX design, both software tutorials and also sharing my experience as a freelance designer. Since I've been doing this for over 8 years now, and I'm sharing all my experience for free on my channel. So feel free to do that and also subscribe and turn on the bell notification if you want to receive a notification each and every time a new video is out. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.